The silent betrayal. The night air was thick with tension as Daniel Foster sat alone in his dimly lit study, his fingers gripping a half-empty glass of whiskey. The ice clinked softly as he swirled the amber liquid, his mind clouded with suspicion. For weeks, something had felt off. The late-night phone calls, the sudden change in Emily's routine, the distant look in her once loving eyes, each clue chipped away at the foundation of trust he had built with his wife over the last 10 years. But tonight, he had undeniable proof. His phone screen glowed in the darkness, displaying a message from an unknown number. "If you want the truth, come to the Oakwood Hotel. Room 214. Midnight." Daniel's heart pounded against his ribs as he glanced at the clock. 11:47 p.m. He had less than 15 minutes to decide whether to confront the truth head-on or continue living in blissful ignorance. 6 months earlier. Emily Foster was the perfect wife, at least, that's what everyone thought. A devoted partner, an excellent mother, and a pillar of their social circle. But behind the carefully crafted illusion, she felt trapped. The spark that once ignited their love had dimmed into routine conversations about bills, their son's soccer practice, and the next dinner party with their neighbors. And then she met him. Alexander Gray was everything Daniel wasn't: spontaneous, mysterious, intoxicatingly unpredictable. Their first encounter was innocent enough, a chance meeting at a charity gala where his charm effortlessly drew her in. But soon, innocent conversations turned into lingering glances, stolen touches, and secrets whispered in the dark. She had convinced herself it was harmless. A fantasy. A small indulgence. But fantasies had a way of bleeding into reality, and before she knew it, she was tangled in a web of lies that even she couldn't escape. Every time she was with Alexander, she felt alive in ways she hadn't in years. He took her on late-night drives with no destination, kissed her under the dim glow of streetlights, and made her feel desired again. But with every moment of passion, guilt sank deeper into her bones. She loved Daniel, or at least, she had convinced herself she did. So why did she keep going back to Alexander? It wasn't just lust. It was the thrill of deception, the intoxicating danger of living a double life. Until that night when it all came crashing down. The night of truth. Daniel parked his car outside the Oakwood Hotel, his hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. The lobby was quiet, save for the faint hum of jazz music drifting from the hotel bar. He took the elevator to the second floor, his breath shallow as he walked toward room 214. The door was slightly ajar. His heart threatened to burst from his chest as he pushed it open. The soft glow of a bedside lamp illuminated the room, revealing the unmistakable silhouette of his wife, her hair tousled, her bare shoulders peeking from under the ETS. And then he saw him. Alexander stood by the window, fastening the buttons of his shirt, completely unfazed by Daniel's presence. The casual arrogance in his eyes sent a surge of rage through Daniel's veins. Emily gasped, clutching the sheets to her chest. "Daniel! Save it," he cut her off, his voice dangerously calm. "I just needed to see it for myself." Alexander smirked. "Well, now you have." The urge to lunge at him was overwhelming, but Daniel restrained himself. Violence wouldn't undo what had already been done. Instead, he turned to Emily, his voice laced with quiet devastation. "Was it worth it? Throwing away everything we built for this?" Tears welled in her eyes. "I never meant for it to happen like this. But it did." The silence stretched between them, heavier than ever before. There was no need for further words. The damage was done. Without another glance, Daniel turned and walked away, leaving behind the remnants of a love that had been shattered beyond repair. Aftermath. The divorce was swift and ruthless. Emily lost the home, full custody of their son, and the respect of everyone who had once admired her. Alexander, despite his promises, vanished as quickly as he had appeared, leaving her with nothing but regret and an empty bed. Daniel, though broken, found solace in the knowledge that he had escaped a life built on deception. And as he stood in his new apartment, watching the sun rise over the city, he vowed never to let himself be blinded by love again. Because love could be beautiful. But betrayal? Betrayal was silent. And it destroyed everything. The unexpected epilogue. Months later, Emily sat alone in a cafe, stirring a cup of coffee she had no desire to drink. The world around her moved on, but she was stuck in the wreckage of her choices. The whispers of her betrayal followed her wherever she went. Friends avoided her. Strangers judged her. Her son barely looked her in the eye. One day, she received a letter. No return address, just a simple envelope slipped under her apartment door. With trembling fingers, she opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper with 6 words written in Daniel's familiar handwriting. Was it worth it? Tears spilled onto the page as she clutched it to her chest. There was no reply she could give. No way to undo what had been done. And in the end, the silence answered for her. Twist of fate. As weeks passed, Daniel started rebuilding his life. He traveled, met new people, and even entertained the idea of love again. But fate had other plans. One evening, as he walked through the city, he spotted Alexander across the street. But something was different. Alexander was not his usual confident self. He was nervous, checking over his shoulder. Within seconds, a man approached him, whispered something, and passed him an envelope. The expression on Alexander's face turned to sheer terror. Daniel, intrigued, followed him at a distance. As Alexander entered a rundown motel, Daniel watched from a safe spot. Moments later, a gunshot echoed through the alley. When he rushed inside, Alexander was slumped against the wall, lifeless. A small note lay beside him: "Some debts are never forgiven." Daniel stared at the scene. Emily had lost everything for a man who was running from something far darker than she ever knew. And now, the past had caught up with him. A shiver ran down Daniel's spine as he realized, perhaps Emily's betrayal had saved him from a fate far worse than heartbreak. And as he walked away from the crime scene, he couldn't help but wonder, was this truly the end, or just the beginning of another dark chapter?